The session today is being recorded as an additional resource for all of our attending partners and those that can't join us today for this all-important session around our Western Civilization program at the University of Queensland. Before we start this session, my name is Rebecca Parry. I am one of the coordinators as part of the UQ Future Students team, and I'll be your host for this afternoon's webinar session. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and their custodianship of the lands on which we meet. We pay our respects to their ancestors and their descendants who continue cultural and spiritual connections to country. We recognise their valuable contributions to Australian and global society. It is my great pleasure to welcome Professor Alastair Blanchard today, who will be providing a really fantastic session for each of you. He is the Paul Eliadis Professor of Classics in Ancient History, as well as the Director for the Centre of Western Civilization. Alastair, I will provide you the floor. Welcome.
Right, thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation to come and speak a little about this new offering that we have at the University of Queensland, to talk a bit about the programme, what it involves, as well as the scholarships that are available in order to support students to study in the programme. So essentially, we offer a major in Western civilization, which can be taken via two pathways at the University of Queensland. So it's possible, for example, to take it via a degree which is only specializing in the humanities, and that's our Bachelor of Advanced Humanities degree. Or it's possible to take it as a major as part of a dual degree with the Bachelor of Laws. Both of these degree programs have proven to be very popular, and in the last year we saw an increase in terms of the Atar entry. So they're both highly competitive programs to get into. So based on last year's scores, you would have required an Atar of 97, or if you're following the IB, an IB score of 39 to enter into the straight humanities degree program. Or if, for example, you want to do the dual with law, the Atar entry is slightly higher, requiring an Atar entry of 98 or an IB of 40. In terms of prerequisites, the prerequisites are fairly straightforward. Nothing particularly complicated. Essentially, a standard Queensland Year 12 or its equivalent will mean that you're eligible for the program. In terms of the duration of the program, the Bachelor of Advanced Humanities with embedded honours is a 4-year degree program, and for the Bachelor of Humanities, Bachelor of Laws, that's a 5-year program. So those are the two programs, and these are the two programs in which you can study Western civilization. But I guess the question to kind of address now is, well, what is Western civilization? What do you study as part of this program? And essentially, this program is a program that's modeled on programs that are available overseas. In particular, what this program is modeled on is what we call a Great Books program. Now, Great Books programs are not particularly common within the Australian higher education environment, but they are very common, particularly in the States. And what these are is a program of directed reading. So over the course of 4 years, you are reading, as it were, selected texts that come from a variety of different genres, different time periods, different intellectual traditions. And the idea is to give you a kind of breadth of reading knowledge. These kinds of programs are available at, for example, Columbia University, the University of Chicago, as well as Yale, Princeton. They tend to form, for example, the kind of education that you would do if you went to a US liberal arts college, most famously St. John's College, Annapolis, which was the sort of the founder of the Great Books program. So it's a kind of interdisciplinary reading program. What we've done is we've just selected for you a series of great works, and we've invited you to read them with us over the course of 4 years. Now, in choosing those works that we've asked you to read, we've had a couple of things going on in our minds. We've tried to choose texts that we think are important, that is to say, that they've had an impact on the world, that they are texts which are useful for explaining the world, for explaining how we came to be in the current condition. But we also think that they're works that actually are not only about the past, but they're also about preparing us for the future as well. So they're works which are designed to help us think through what we think are contemporary issues. So to give you an example, one of the texts that we look at is Thucydides' History of the Peloponnesian War. Now, this is a classic of Greek history writing. It's probably, after Herodotus' history, is the most important bit of ancient history writing that comes out of the ancient world. It describes the great battles between Athens and Sparta. And yet, it's not just a work that is very useful for understanding what's happening in ancient history. Because of the way it analyzes power structures, because of the way it analyzes how states interact, the kinds of motivations that drive state interactions. Actually, a lot of political theorists find themselves going back time and time again to Thucydides for thinking about the rise of emergent powers, how bipolar systems of arrangement fall apart, how conflict can often be inevitable, and the consequences of that. So it's a work which is grounded in the past, but actually is fantastically useful for thinking about contemporary issues. And that idea of, as it were, texts that are useful for the past, but are also useful for thinking about contemporary things, has been very much part of what's driven our particular selection of texts. Now, these texts, this list of texts is divvied up into certain chunks, and these are available as a series of courses. And so what I thought I'd do now is talk about the kinds of courses that you would study. So this is the list of courses that we would be offering. And as I say, in each course, you'll have a set reading list of 5 or 6 texts that you will study. So in the first year, for example, you would study the classical world, and you'd do that with me. And we would start with Homer's Iliad, and then we would move through to look at things like Sappho's love poetry. We'd go on to look at some of the great works of Greek drama, Sophocles' Antigone. We do a few Roman biographies of kind of mad emperors, and then we'd finish off with Ovid's Metamorphoses, an epic work that is all about kind of myth and some of the great mythical stories. A work which was very influential in particular art history circles. People read their Ovid and then produced numerous paintings that illustrated sessions from it. So it's a really important work. So that gives you a sense of what that course would look like. And then, in the second semester, you'd go on to do Jewish and Christian works. And that again would begin with biblical texts, but would then move on to texts like Dante's Inferno, as well as Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress, and all the way up to kind of contemporary works. So, for example, Hannah Arendt's work, particularly on reflections on the Holocaust. So again, a broad range of stuff. And that would be essentially your first year. In your second year, we'd offer courses on the European Enlightenment and its consequences, as well as a course that's entitled Empire and its Critics, which is designed to get you to think critically and reflectively about the nature of empire, colonialism, its legacy, and the various debates that has engendered. So it's a broad variety of things that we're dealing with in the course. The third year has 3 compulsory units: a course on women's writing, a course on Australia and particularly Australian texts, and a final course which is designed to kind of get you to reflect and think about the nature of the West. How useful is this concept of the West? Is it a concept that has a future? And so we'd talk about those kinds of issues. In addition to this, as well as those kind of compulsory courses, you also have options to do a whole series of elective courses as well. And these are things like a reading course in American literature, a study of the works of Shakespeare. Two courses that I think are probably worth pointing out to you, because they're unique to this program, is one which is called Sounding the West, which is a survey of Western musical traditions from the medieval period onwards. And it's designed to get you to become a critical listener. So the idea is that you can appreciate all different kinds of forms of Western music, and it's designed for people who might not have any musical background at all. So what we have in that course are a couple of streams, some for those who've got some musical background, but we also have a kind of critical listening stream for those people who have no musical background whatsoever, but are interested in learning how to listen to music, critically analyze it and discuss it. And it's the same with our Icons of Western Art course, which again is a survey of Western art traditions that again, is designed for people with perhaps no experience in analysis of visual objects and art. Along with that, we have a number of courses which we think work very well if you're part of particularly if you're doing the dual with law. So we've got some courses there on, for example, the rule of law and rights and freedoms. Now, I've noticed that there's just had a question from Anthea about, are there electives that you can take outside of this elective choice? And the answer is yes. So what I'm describing this is, in fact, the major. This is what constitutes the major. But the major is only one part of your degree. So in addition to your extended major, this extended major, you also have options to include a number of electives. Now, the number of electives depend on which program you do. So if you're doing the straight humanities program, you have quite a lot of elective choice. If you're doing the combination with law, your elective choices are more difficult because you've got that law component as well. But if you wanted, for example, to combine Western civilization with, for example, a foreign language, or if you wanted to do it with, as you suggested, a journalism subject, that would be possible as well. So there are general electives that you can pick up in the degree as well as this. So this is just really describing the major. And in addition to the major, you'll also have other electives as part of the degree. So I hope that's answered your question, Anthea. So I hope that's given you a sense then of what the program is like. What I'd like to do now is perhaps talk a bit more about the scholarships that are available to assist students who wanted to study this program. So the scholarships are really extraordinarily generous. They're to the value of $30,000 a year for every year you're in the program. So this is a wonderful opportunity. And so if you're doing, for example, the 4-year program, it's 4 years of 30,000. If you're doing 5 years, the 5-year law program, it's 5 years. There's also facility for you to take an international exchange as part of your degree. So one of the things that we've done in structuring the degrees is we've always ensured that there's a space in the program where you don't have any compulsory subjects. And that would mean that if the borders ever come down, if we can ever travel again, that you would be able to go overseas and pursue exchange opportunity. The University of Queensland has numerous really wonderful exchange opportunities, and that would be funded as part of your scholarship. So that's what you can see there as terms of the value of the scholarship. The $30,000 is, I think, a really wonderful sum, partly because it means that if, for example, you're a regional or rural student who has to come down to Brisbane to study, it will cover all your college fees. You can live in college, you can study at the university, and you'll still have money left for books and other accessories as well. So it means that it really makes it possible for anyone to come and study this program. In terms of the selection criteria for the scholarships, there are 3 criteria that we're looking at. The first is academic excellence. And it should be said that with all these criteria, we do take a very generous approach to it. So it's a mixture of all 3 rather than necessarily the outstanding academic student. We're looking for all sorts of things. And in many ways, given that the ATAR entry is so high, that academic excellence criteria is almost met by being able to enter into the program. So one thing I wouldn't want people to do is think, well, if the ATAR entry is 97, then I need to be getting an ATAR entry of 99 because I need to be at the very top of the list in order to be eligible for a criteria. I mean, that academic excellence is really a kind of objective criteria. And to be honest, it seems to me a student who's getting a 97 is pretty academically excellent. So I think that's the first thing to say, is that academic excellence criteria is an important one, but it's not the absolute decider. What's important for us also are things like community service. And here, in particular, we take a very broad notion of what constitutes community service. What we're interested in is candidates who can demonstrate to us that they have a genuine commitment to making the world around them a better place. And that can be on a local level, very local. It can be their school, or it can be a community group that they're involved in, or their town, or it can be on sort of a much bigger scale. So we're interested in someone who kind of has an engagement with the community and can manifest a desire to show how they want to make the world a better place. And the final thing, that criteria that we have, is this criteria called suitability for the program. And here what we're interested in is really finding out about how the program fits into your life goals. So how is this program going to really assist you to achieve what you want to achieve? Now, I should say at this stage that we realize that people's plans are very loose at this stage. We're not expecting you to have your whole life mapped out. Indeed, we'd kind of worry if you did. Rather, what we're interested in is you just telling us about what your passions are, what your interests are, how you see that might playing out in the future, and how this degree, the kinds of things, subjects you read, the kinds of books you'll be reading, will just help you achieve those outcomes. So those are the 3 selection criteria, and they get kind of formalized through the application process. And I'll just talk a bit about the application process now. So the application process is this: you need to assemble essentially 3 groups of documents. So the first document is a CV of 1 to 2 pages, no more than 2 pages. And this should, outline any kind of work experience you've had, what kinds of jobs you've done, your schooling, anything that you think would be useful, that tells us, about you, any positions of authority that you've held, perhaps in your school, anything that you think is sort of relevant. And in addition to that, and this is the really important bit for the scholarship, is that we'd also like you to produce three very short statements about your academic abilities, your community service, and your fitness for the program. So in particular, tell us about your academic abilities, particularly help us understand any kind of academic material that we're getting from your school or any kind of grade. So if, for example, you're in a large class, tell us that the class is large and that you were near the top. So give us a bit of sort of information about this so that we can properly understand any academic information that we have from you. Again, any academic awards, prizes, whether you've entered into any national competitions in history, essay writing, creative writing, any of those sorts of things. Tell us about that. In terms of community service, as I say, this is very broadly conceived. One thing also is that if your community service is based around your school, try and give us as much information so that we can understand what your school community service program is like. So, occasionally we get references to, I was a service captain at my school, and it's not clear to us what a service captain does. What kind of involvement, how many hours a week does this involve? How many other service captains are there at your school? Those sorts of things. So remember that we won't know a lot about your school or really about your background. So you try and give us as much information about that as possible. And then the final thing is in relation to the fitness for program. And as I say, it's all about how this all fits into your life goals. Or you might also talk about what skills you currently have that you think really will help you succeed in the program. So if, for example, you're a very keen debater, you're used to putting your arguments together logically, you know how to argue a position, these are all great skills that we'll be developing over the course of the program. So again, that would be really helpful to add into that fitness for the program. So there'll be an opportunity at the end of this presentation to ask questions. So if you have any questions about what kinds of things we'd like to see in each statement, very happy to talk about that. And then the final thing is we'll need 2 references. And just a couple of things about these references. They really need to be from people, ideally your teachers, people who can talk about your academic ability. So this isn't really a character reference that we're after. It's really a reference that's about your kind of academic ability, your community service activities. It may be the case that, if you have a very extensive involvement in a particular kind of community service activity, then maybe the person who oversees that activity could write your reference. But it's really not so much about kind of character, but rather just telling us a bit about your ability and your community service as seen by others. So that's those are the 3 documents, and we suggest that you kind of compile each one of those, and then each of those then gets uploaded into our scholarship platform. I'll talk a bit now about the time frame for these. So the time frame is that applications open on the 21st of June, and you can see there the web link for uploading the scholarship. So if you go to there, you'll see the online forms, and it'll talk you through the process of how you submit an application. So those applications are open on the 21st. They close at 10 to midnight on the 6th of August. Those applications will then be reviewed, and then on some point between the 1st and 3rd of September, all applicants will be advised as to whether they've been shortlisted for interview or not. Now there is an interview process as part of the scholarship. Those interviews happen on the 22nd to the 24th of September. So that I think is in the semester break for the mid school holidays. Those interviews will be done via Zoom, so that if you're out of Brisbane, we can interview you, as well as, no matter what's happening with COVID, we can still interview candidates. And then after that interview, and I should say the interview is very relaxed. Before the interview process, we'll send you a lot of information about the interview, explaining what's going to happen in the interview, the kinds of questions you're going to get. So the interview process is something that it's just an opportunity for us to meet and chat. It really is not a high pressure thing, and we do our best to make it as relaxing and then as enjoyable as possible. It's just a chance to talk about the stuff you're reading and why you like it, really. And then after that, on round about the 22nd of October, people will be advised about whether they've been successful or not for the scholarships, and whether and if you are successful, you'll get a conditional offer. So what this conditional offer is that it says, look, if you manage to get admitted to the program, then you will be a scholarship will be made available to you. So the scholarship process exists independently of the admissions process. So all admissions is done via QTAC. So all the offer really says is, look, if you are admitted to the program, then we will make a scholarship available to you. So it's not, and this is important, it's not an offer of admission into the program. It's really just saying, look, if you get admitted, then we will award you a scholarship, and you really need to get that admission via the QTAC process to get into the program. And I should say that ATARs change from year to year. So last year we had a huge jump in ATAR entry. We're not expecting it to jump so much this time round, but it should be. People should be aware that ATARs change. Now that's a sort of summary of it. What we have also done is we've also prepared a guide for anyone who's interested in being admitted to the program and applying for a scholarship. So those guides will have gone out to schools. Any school that's shown an interest, we've sent out a guide. If you would like to receive a guide, please just email westernciv at uq.edu.au. We'll happily send you out some information. You can also download it as well, and we can send you the link for downloading the scholarship guide. I think there's going to be some follow-up information following this presentation, and that will also include that link for you to download the guide as well there. So there is this guide. We think it's going to make things a lot easier and much clearer. Well, look, that's everything that I wanted to say at this point. And I really am very happy to answer any questions that people might have about the program, about the scholarships, about the application process. So if there are any questions or comments out there, I'm very happy to address them.
Excellent. I will mention to everyone that is on the line that there is a Q&A button on this webinar. So if you do have any questions for Alastair, please drop a note through there. We have answered one already that was provided a little bit earlier, but we did receive one at the start of the session, Alastair, from Natalie.
Right.
And her question was, does the ATAR thresholds for the programs that were presented up on that earlier slide, do they include adjustments, or can adjustments be applied?
So certainly adjustments are, if you're eligible for adjustment, then certainly those can be applied. So those ATAR entries are really after the adjustments have been been applied, but we do follow the UQ process in terms of making adjustments for students. So yes, yeah.
And is that the case, just I guess for clarity, not just for admissions into the program, but are they considered as well in terms of the academic elements of the scholarship application?
Right. Yes. Yeah. So all of the criteria that I've outlined are relevant. Are relative to opportunity. So we do make allowances for that when we're looking at comparing candidates.
Yep. I can see that there has been a question submitted. So it says, what if we are not academically eligible due to other issues that have interrupted our education in year 12? There's something that I can present here in the first instance, and you may have some additional comments around this, Alistair. But there is a scheme, speaking on the adjustments element for any students that are on the line, there is a scheme that is administered by QTAC, which is the Queensland Tertiary Admission Centre, where you'll be applying for the University of Queensland, called the Educational Access Scheme. Now, with EAS, you can provide information or find information through the UQ website or direct to QTAC. Now, this covers 5 different categories of academic disruption to your senior studies, and there's a range of different elements to that. It could be financially focused, it could be revolved around caring responsibilities or illness or deaths in family. There's a range of different categories. So if you think that this is something that could apply to your education, I highly encourage you to take a look at that scheme, and it is a bit of a sliding scale of how many adjustments are awarded to each student, so it is case by case. But if you do fall under that category, then you could use those adjustments in just the same manner towards any degree program at UQ, up to 5 adjustments.
Right. Yes, and I should say that we just follow the QTAC admissions admission scores. So the schemes that QTAC administer are the ones that we observe. So.
Mm-hmm. Second question following that is, how many scholarships are awarded? Maybe we'll answer that one first. And then what would you say are the job opportunities that could come from completing a program such as this?
Great. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Both great questions. So yes. So the first question, I guess, is how many scholarships, and that's about 30 a year, and we would look to do about 15 of the dual with law and 15 for the straight humanities program. So that's the rough split. We vary that a bit from year to year according to the quality of the candidates, but that's our aim, is to do roughly half law, half with the dual with law, half with the straight humanities degree. In terms of the job opportunities, well, I think it's all the kinds of different opportunities that are available from a standard humanities degree. I mean, I think one of the good things about this degree is its breadth. So it's not the case that you are, just have a historical focus or a literary focus or political philosophy focus, but you have all of that combined together. And so one of the things that we imagine with graduates for this program is that they will come out with an ability to talk about a variety of areas and with a variety of different skill sets. As well, and those kind of skill sets are going to be important whether you want to work with the government, for example, in terms of you'll have fantastic reading, research, writing, argumentative skills. So whether you want to pursue areas of policy development, for example, research, in kind of those kind of areas as well. But also, I mean, just skills like, for example, knowing, how societies work, what makes societies think, how do societies, what drives and motivates people, of course, are important skills, even if you're going into, for example, the world of business, the world of commerce, advertising, all of those sorts of things. I mean, you'll have a tremendous intellectual resources that you can bring to bear on any kind of contemporary problem. And it's that ability to kind of be able to bring to bear so much kind of wealth of knowledge to any kind of particular problem that we think makes our graduates very distinctive, and we think leads to good sort of employable outcomes.
I think that might be some of the comments that you've just made. There may be applicable to the question that you've asked, Anthea, which was, what are the outlooks or perhaps prospects for students who achieve or I guess complete this degree as they're entering the workforce? And is this degree held in high regard in the humanities space?
Yes, yeah. I mean, both of those are. I mean, as I say, it's a degree program that's very well known overseas, but it's a kind of program that has never been particularly common in Australian universities, and that's for sort of largely sort of historical reasons. So it's a very kind of international degree. I think that's the thing I would stress. My colleagues in various research centres around the place think that actually it's a fantastic training for the kinds of interdisciplinary graduate students that they're looking for. Yeah.
Brilliant. The question that Aidan has put through is sort of looking around the humanities law dual and the entry requirements. So I guess the question is, how lenient is the university with Atar scores, and how many students are admitted into the program each year? So I guess in terms of your first half of the question, Aidan, Atar thresholds will vary year to year. So the indicative scores that you are seeing on our website at the moment and printed in guides, if you've ever had a look through one before, are reflective of last year's cohort that they gain entry into the program. So these could still, slightly ebb and flow as we get to the end of this year if you are a year 12 applicant. Obviously, if you've got a few years down the track, then this could change even more so. Obviously, some students may have had the benefit of an adjustment. So if you were looking at those unadjusted and adjusted scores, that sometimes confuse some students about what those numbers mean. But typically a student, if that was the case, they get entry into that dual program, they likely had some adjustments in their corner if their lowest score was a 94. So it can vary in that particular space, but some students may consider the single degree program without the laws in some cases, or the dual, and that can quite vary the applying Atar that you're looking to achieve. Do you have an idea, Alistair, how many students are in the program each
Yes,
time?
yeah. So we aim to admit about 40 students into the program each year. And we'd like to kind of cap it around that number. And partly, and this I think addresses a question that someone else has asked, which is about class sizes. And in fact, I should have mentioned this because this is in fact one of the very distinctive features of this program, is it's got very small class sizes. So we cap our class sizes at around 10. So that means that it's a wonderful opportunity for discussion. The way the courses work, each week you would have a 1-hour lecture, which would give you a bit of background to the text we're reading for that week, and some of the issues that it raises. And then the main bulk of teaching is in fact a 2-hour discussion where 10 of us get together in a room. We work through the text and we discuss the ideas that we've encountered. We debate some of the issues that it raises. We explore some of the problems that the text presents. So it's a very interactive course done in a very small group. And one of the really nice things about this course is the way in which it really builds a lovely kind of cohort experience. That is, that you're surrounded with the same people. It's a small program, and over the course of 4 years, you get a chance really to explore a range of ideas.
A student has asked, are you interested in students' musical commitments as well as their service and academic achievements?
Yes, Absolutely, and I think in that, I mean, I think, if you wanted to discuss your musical commitments, you could either discuss it in relation to the kind of your community and your participation in youth orchestras or those sorts of things, or it may come up in terms of fitness for program. That is that there is a musical component in the course. You're excited by it. You can see it really fitting in with the kind of musical background that you have. So absolutely, and in fact, one of the things that's quite noticeable is just how strong musically so many of our students are. It seems to be a nice kind of overlap between students who are talented at music and people who are applying for this program. So yes, absolutely. If you've got a musical background, mention it, and you'll certainly find a group of like-minded individuals in the course as well.
Brilliant. Do you have an idea, Alistair, of how many applications are received for the scholarship?
Yeah, so it's about 100 or so every year. I think that's roughly it. I mean, this is only the second year it's been run. So we're still, I think, finding our way. I mean, each year the number's gone up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd imagine we'd see an increase this year. But that's roughly the order of magnitude.
Yep. There was a question of are there other scholarships offered in the law, criminal justice space? There is one scholarship that comes to mind is the Law Lead scholarship that we have here at UQ, and the LEAD, LEAD, does stand for Leadership Excellence and Diversity Scholarship. So this is for new students, domestic students doing their undergraduate bachelor's program who have experienced educational, social and/or financial disadvantage. So it is in a specific vein and stream, but it's definitely a fantastic one for students to take a look at if you were considering, the dual program in combination with law. There may also be some additional Year 12 Leaver scholarships as well that come through the scholarship season, around that August, September when they launch on our webpage. So you can definitely jump on and take a look and see what's on offer, for next year's entry, this year's applicants for 2022. Caleb has said, it seems that the courses place a heavy emphasis on reading. Can you give an indication as to how much reading of historical texts are done on a weekly basis?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, we work on probably a text a week. Some big texts, like for example, Homer's Iliad, we would take 2 weeks. 2 weeks to read. So it's basically one text a week. And it's really just that text. We don't get you to do a huge amount of secondary reading. What we really want you just to read the text. So, some weeks it might be, as I say, half the Iliad. Other weeks it might be a single play, a sequence of 14, 15 poems we might discuss. Yeah, that's it. 2 short biographical lives. I mean, that gives you a rough sense of the reading. You're absolutely right. It's a course for readers. So if you like reading, this is absolutely the course that you should be applying for, because it's an opportunity just to immerse yourself and read for 4 years and read some really wonderful things and be guided through some fantastic texts.
Brilliant. Could you, I guess, paint a little bit of a picture of the types of assessments that appear in a program like Advanced Humanities? Yeah,
sure, absolutely. So there are a variety of things. I mean, there's the standard essay. A couple of courses have some exams as well. Exams are not hugely common in the course, it must be said. One of the things is that almost all the courses always have some form of group project. And the reason for that is because when you leave university, you're always going to be working in a group, right? I mean, none of us work alone. We're always part of a team. And we think it's really important for students before they leave university to have an opportunity and a space to explore working in a team, to develop your team skills. And in particular, one of the things that we discuss with them is, how do you have hard conversations with people? How do you tell someone, look, I think you really need to kind of pick up your socks and work harder, or I really don't think our group should go in that direction. So we do a lot of kind of role playing of how group work should work, and so it's really about kind of upskilling you so that you can say to a future employer, look, I'm a great team member. Let me give you this fantastic example of this time when the team was down the dumps about something, and I managed to turn things around. So we are very keen that the kinds of assessments that we offer actually give you skills. So it's not just about assessing knowledge, it's about making sure that you have the skills to do it. So yes, so there is, just to answer Natalie's direct question, yes, there is some group assessment as part of the program. Mm-hmm. And you'll find that, I think, increasingly at university, people really think that actually group assessment has some value to it. Because as I say, we all work in groups. We need to know how to work effectively in groups.
Brilliant. There is an additional scholarships question there, that if you were successful to receive the Ramsay scholarship, are you eligible for other academic scholarships? And I would sort of broaden that to scholarships in general. And my response would be yes. They aren't mutually exclusive of each other. You could be awarded an equity-based scholarship or an accommodation scholarship, across different categories. But perhaps you might have some further commentary there.
Yes, yeah. So I should say that there are certain kinds of scholarships which are you can't hold. So scholarships that are deemed to be very similar. For example, so the one you gave example before was the Leeds scholarship in law. So you can't hold, for example, a Leeds scholarship and a Ramsay scholarship at the same time. Now, if you were to be awarded one, you'd have the choice of which one you'd want to take. The Ramsay scholarship is the more generous of the two, so we'd expect you to take the Ramsay one, but there is an option. So there are certain scholarships which are deemed that you can't hold them, but as you say, there are a number of scholarships that would be possible for you to hold simultaneously as well.
Definitely. If you're accepted through the course, I guess they are mutually exclusive. You sort of are awarded a scholarship, and you also must gain entry into the program. But are there any other conditions that you must maintain a certain grade point average?
Yeah. So yes, yeah. So in order to, for example, go into the final year of your program, which is the research intensive honours year of the program, then you do need to maintain a grade point average of 5.5, and that's the sort of the key entry. Other than that, there is a requirement that you continue to keep a sort of passing GPA. As well, in order to have a scholarship. So admission to the program, you can maintain your position in the program with a slightly lower GPA, but there is a GPA requirement for the scholarship.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Michaela asked a question that if the ATAR wasn't high enough to get entry into the course, are there other ways or pathways to be accepted?
Yes, I mean, this is an area that I must admit, I'm not super experienced with. Essentially, entry comes via, as I said, via QTAC, and so there are ways in which you can get there are bridging programs and options like that to get, as it were, an equivalent to a particular kind of ATAR. But I'm afraid that I'm not familiar all that much with those processes.
Yeah, so there is a range of pathway options, some of which are external to the university, others that you can do internally. So you could consider something like a tertiary study pathway and commence an alternate program at the University of Queensland. And typically we would suggest that studying up to a period of 12 months will allow you to get, I guess, a strong and competitive grade point average. So using your university scores as your alternate rank. So your ATAR will no no longer be relevant, and we will use your grade point average instead as an equivalent rank, and you could reapply for your dream program and try to gain entry subsequently after year one, or throughout your first year to start that following year. So that's definitely an option that other students have taken. And in reality, it doesn't matter which degree program it is that you choose to do that. You know, you might be really passionate about something in the arts or something in business. It's about focusing on those grades and getting the best scores that you can, and using that as your alternate admissions rank to move across. I would mention that we do host an event called Atar Advice, and it happens that the day after you receive your Atar scores. So this year it should be the 19th of December. That's a really fantastic event alongside Open Day on the 1st of August, that you could get some of this personalised advice about pathway options for you if you do have concerns about your ATAR not meeting the mark.
Good. We've had a question about gap years, and yes, so yes, you can have spent a year, a gap year away. The only important thing is that you mustn't have studied for a degree during that gap year. So you know, if, for example, you wanted to apply at the end of year 12 and then but take a sort of gap year, that would be a certainly a possibility as well. So yes, no, that gap years are fine.
The order of that, Alistair, just in terms of clarification, you know, would students be applying this year? You know, can someone be awarded a scholarship and opt to take a gap year? Are they able to defer if they are the holder of a scholarship and a place in the program?
Yes, look, I'm just in fact going to have a look at the rules. Perhaps we might clarify that in the information to people at the you know, when we send out the information, because I just want to make absolutely certain
That's no problem. Yeah, we can take that one offline for you, Natalie, and in the post event comms we can provide that information to all attendees just for clarification.
Yes, because it's a technical issue as to whether you should apply at the end of year 12 and you can hold it over for a year, or whether you need to apply in the year at which you'll be admitting. But the answer to the second question that Natalie's asking about, if you've done a year of study, does that invalidate? Yes, you can't have done a year of study. I'm just trying to find there's the scholarship rules there, the precise wording, so I can do it. So yes, in order to be eligible, yes, you have to have either completed year 12 in the year of application or completed year 12 in the year preceding the year of application. So yes, so you would apply actually in the year to which you'd be admitted to the program. Yes, yeah, but we can send this out to you. In terms of answer the international exchange opportunities, well, look, as I say, we've structurally built this into the program. I think, like so many of us, none of us know what the future in this space is going to look like next year or the year after. You know, hopefully things will normalize. The UQ has a fantastic range of partner universities all over the world that provide exchange opportunities. So, you know, provided travel is safe and possible, then you know we would love to see that happen. But you know, I mean, COVID is just making it so difficult. And then, how much influence does Ramsay have? So there's a question about, you know, as it were, where does the curriculum come from? This curriculum is totally generated by UQ. So we own the curriculum, we devise the curriculum, it's our curriculum. So it's it doesn't have any external influence in terms of the curriculum. It's designed by the staff and scholars here at the university.
Wonderful. We've reached the end of our questions. We did go a slightly bit over our scheduled time, so thank you so much to all of you that did hang with us throughout this webinar session. They were fantastic questions. We will be able to provide a bit of a synopsis or overview of all of the questions that have been provided, and in the post-event comms we can give you a copy of those responses in a bit of a summary. But of course the session has been recorded, so you are free to review the session and listen to some of those responses again in case you missed some of the detail. Alistair, will you be part of the Open Day event this year?
Yes, absolutely. I'll be there, either in person or online, but I'll certainly be there in some form.
Yeah, there was a little question. So Open Day will be in person, obviously, if things stay healthy through to August. So Sunday the 1st of August is our big St Lucia Open Day. So students, you will be able to come along and seek some more answers to your questions and explore a little bit more about the Advanced Humanities programs as well as others across UQ in a little bit more detail. I'll just double check. No problem. Just a little comment from someone, so not a question. Thank you very much again to all of our attendees. Thank you, Alistair, for a wonderful session. And we look forward to speaking with all of you again sometime soon.